Hello and welcome to the Broad Street Hockey Podcast Happy Hour. I am your
Woo!
host, Ryan Gilbert. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Joe DeMarini. Joe, how we doing today?
Oh, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, isn't it? I've got this is probably bad recording practice, but I have my window open just a crack because I'm like, I want some fresh air in here while we do this. How about you? How you doing, Gilbs?
Yes, no, I'm doing good. Always good. It's good to get some fresh air, but I've been wary recently with with my
Oh,
cats and whatnot with the bird flu going around. We haven't been able to open our windows because apparently they can get it through the window screen. So I've got to be wary about that. But yeah, it's
fun
springtime here in Philadelphia, a bit kind of ish. So
ish.
yeah, going through it very up and down weather. Flyers also very up and down.
Oh boy.
I titled this Flyers Freefall. Before they won last night, of course, Bobby Brink coming through in the clutch, Michkov Tippett in the shootout. We'll get to all of that. But you know what we gotta do first, Joe?
Tell me,
Well,
Gilbs.
actually before that,
Oh,
if you're not subscribed yet on YouTube, take a few seconds, hit that subscribe button. If you're already subscribed, just take a deep breath because we can all use one here and whatever's going on. So take a second, subscribe to us here on YouTube. We're on the road to 1,000, so we appreciate all of that. And we are brought to you by BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for betting on the madness. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion with the largest selection of odds on everything from college basketball to a $200,000 bracket contest. BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every Cinderella story to every hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. Bet online, the game starts here. All right, and now we can get started here. I guess we'll get
what you
started.
drinking?
Oh,
What you drinking?
it's my classic. It's my Miller High Life.
A
You know what
highlight.
I got here. Joe has something fancy here. Joe, what do you got?
It's called a Corpse Reviver #2. It is gin, lemon juice, Cointreau, Coqui Americano Blanc, and absinthe, and a nice cherry to garnish it. Cheers. Happy
Nice.
Friday, all.
Cheers. Happy Friday there. And we the Flyers were revived last night by Bobby
Oh,
Brink.
yes.
John Tortorella changed up the lines a little bit. Put Konechny with Cates and Forster, put Brink with Lixell and Paling on that third line. And I mean, he was great there. He had the goal in the first period, had the goal in the second period, set up Paling in the second period there as well. So a big game for Bobby Brink, 3-point game, had a 4-point game a few weeks ago. Sam Harrison bounced back a little bit, but yeah, I mean, it's I don't know if I want to say it's a hollow victory because all wins are good, but we're starting to be ready for the tank a little bit, especially
A
against the
little.
Lightning. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they've got the Canes tomorrow, so I'm not too hopeful that they're just going to roll again. But, missed opportunity to say that those lines were shaken up rather than just
Oh,
stirred. Hey,
yeah.
oh, that's a
Yeah.
cocktail joke.
I like that one there. Yeah. Yeah. Bobby Brink came up big last night. Travis Konechny still a little bit snake bit in there.
Oh, that shootout goal where it went ping, ping, ping and didn't
Yeah.
cross the line. Unbelievable.
That was unbelievable there. Getting the three pings there. Cam Atkinson returned. He scored there for the Lightning. That was cool. It was cool to see him there. But yeah, I mean that was one game. We're not gonna really talk about that game in the grand scheme of things, but it's now been a week, almost exactly since we last recorded about the trade deadline. How are we feeling now? How are we feeling? How are we feeling about the Lawton trade? How are we feeling about everything in general? Because it's felt like a long time, and it's been
Yeah.
a long losing streak, especially.
Yeah, I mean, now that the deadline's done, we really have nothing left to cover for the rest of the season. Like, oh, there's a game. They're out of the playoffs. I guess we're covering that. So it's like the real doldrums because we're not in the playoff hunt. I feel pretty good. I think they pulled the trigger when they needed to on Lawton. They got the value that they'd set for him. They did a solid to Eric Johnson. I guess they kind of did a solid to Andrei Kuzmenko, sending him to Los Angeles, but who cares? He was only here for like a month. Whatevs. Yeah, I give him a B plus, probably a B plus. I think overall.
Yeah, I think that's a solid grade to give him there. A B plus for Briere. I mean, yeah, it's traded away Lawton for that first round pick. Got Gulbenkian, who still hasn't worked through his visa issues, I don't believe. So hopefully he'll play for the Phantoms. Hopefully the Flyers at some point, because I was wrong about that, saying he'd probably play by now. But yeah, I got visa issues. Pelletier is still on the fourth line. I don't understand what's going on there. Like I get they want to see what Lixell has because he's a Group 6 UFA, but like he's 25. You kind of know what Lixell is at this point. I don't know. Maybe bring him back if he's willing to play in the AHL. But besides that, there's not really a winger spot for him. And Pelletier is a guy who, I posted about this on Blue Sky. He's a near point per game player in the AHL. He was a first round pick. Like, so he has skill. Like, I would have liked to see him up with Forster and Cates instead of Konechny. Like, give him a chance on one of these higher lines where he's not playing with Nick Delorier and Rodrigo Abels. But I guess you can't have every winger playing with not even a good center, just a decent center.
Yeah, I spoiler for tomorrow's preview, I wrote like, what are we doing here with Pelletier? Like, he should before season's end get a chance with a center that isn't, like, no disrespect to Rodrigo Abels, he's a perfectly fine stopgap 4C, but I don't know. Oh well, there is Torts was like, oh, we might want to try Pelletier at center at some point before the season is up, and I'm like, well, if they can't put him with the center, why not just make him the center?
I saw someone post that Ashlyn Sullivan said that. I was at the game, so I wasn't watching the broadcast. I don't know if you said Tortorella said that since then or before that, maybe.
I think it was Torts said it, but it was Ashlyn who like said that Torts
relayed it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, sure, why not? Like, give him a chance at center. But yeah, speaking of Rodrigo Abels, I mean, that's also the Flyers doing good by their players, like you wrote about at the trade deadline for BroadStreetHockey.com. Make sure you like, read, and subscribe there. Joe's got 2 articles: how they do well by their players, and the other one was they're still committed to the rebuild. Of course they are. Of course they are. After the getting a few future assets there, but yeah, also Rodrigo Abels. Like, yeah, sure, maybe he should be in the AHL, but he's worked his whole life to get to North America. Give him some games on the fourth line. Why not? Like Jacob Gaucher, whoever I'd rather see in the AHL. So yeah, see what Rodrigo can do. He scored the other night, so that's fine there.
You also have to consider that after the deadline, each team only gets 4 call-ups unless there's an injury. Is there another center in the AHL you'd rather call up for the rest of the season to fill that role? Like, I don't think there really is, right? So there's a reason it was Abels to be brought up.
Yeah, and the Phantoms are going to make the playoffs because like almost every team makes the playoffs in the AHL. So I'd rather see the young guys down there together, which maybe Gulbenkian will stay there a little bit, but it's been a week and I feel like fans are already going crazy about the rebuild. Like they forgot what a rebuild is like. Like, yeah, there were a few bad losses in there. Yeah, especially Saturday and Sunday. After losing one of their emotional leaders at the trade deadline, like didn't really get any good call-ups there. Haven't had a chance to process that. So the weekend losses I kind of excuse a little bit, even though the Kraken are a bad team. Played better against Ottawa, as they said, as Tortorella said. And yeah, it's got the win last night against Tampa. Maybe they don't if Vasilevsky or Kucherov play, but Tampa Bay, didn't take the night off, but they're pretty firmly in the second or third spot. They're not getting that top spot in the Atlantic, so give their goalies some rest there. But yeah, fans are like, oh, why didn't the Flyers get anything? Why aren't we seeing anything from the trade deadline? Like, all we see is Pelletier, and he's playing 5 minutes a night. Well, okay, you got a first round pick, you got a second round pick, you got another prospect. Like, you got a bunch of things for the future. It's not about getting back roster players, but it is frustrating. I guess it is frustrating to see the Flyers lose 4 roster players, get one back, and then see Nick Delorier skating out there.
Look, a rebuild is going to take time and patience, especially you tankers, all you tank crowd out there. Guess what? This past week, imagine if we had a whole season of that. How would you feel? If you were like, well, why can't they win a game? Well, like, dude, that's a tank. That's the plan. Yeah. Well, they said they're not going to tank. Why are they so bad? And it's like, because they're icing half of an AHL roster because they traded away key cogs of their top 9. Like, and not just at the deadline. I'm talking Frost and Farabee in this too. Like, they are icing a tank-worthy roster. This isn't a permanent roster, but it's what they have to work with for the rest of the season, and that's just how it is.
Yeah,
You wanted a tank, this is what you'd get all year.
yeah, I saw Charlie post about it. He was like, the same people that were crying about the Flyers needing to tank are the same people right now crying about why they're losing. Like that's perfectly put. And like also right now, you see the Sixers, like they're trying to tank, and their fans are absolutely miserable after making the playoffs a few years in a row, having that deep playoff run that ended against Thomas Williams Raptors. There,
Did they
got 6 or 7 years ago at this point, but
they've
yeah,
made it past the second round? I didn't know that.
they made it to the conference final in I want to say 2019. So that's
Whoa,
I mean, if
cool.
it when you say 2019, it's like okay, maybe like 2 years ago, but no, it's 6 years. It's 6 years ago at this point. But yeah, that's just what a tank is. You're gonna lose games, and then you're gonna lose games. When the Flyers were at full strength, they had 4 middle 6 lines. Now they have 2 middle 6 lines and really 2 fourth lines. Like the Lixell, Paling, Brink line. Brink elevates it a bit, but that's a
Yeah.
fourth line. That's a fourth line on a good NHL team. So that's what happens. And you know what? Something I did notice last night, or I guess didn't really notice, was that Ristolainen wasn't there. So like the Flyers had their 6th defenseman without Ristolainen. He's day to day with an upper body injury. Like we're seeing a preview of what could have been if they traded him, or what they will have next year, plus maybe a Bonk or plus someone else if they do trade him. And if they can get a good haul for him, like I'm not going to miss him. But at the same time, I am talking myself into Risto could just end up playing out his contract here.
I mean, there are worse things than Risto playing out his contract here. I also just don't want to move him for like a 3rd round pick.
No.
This is something else about the deadline. Why did people were calling about Zamula? Why didn't they move him for a 4th? Or why didn't they trade Ryan Paling for like a 4th or stuff like that? These are the same people that are like, well, the Flyers never hit on those mid-late round picks. And I'm like, why are you trying to accumulate so many of them if you don't believe that they can turn into like legitimate NHL players? You want to strip the roster for mid-late round picks and then do what with them? Oh, we can trade them for stuff. They're not valuable. Like they are not that valuable. Or you could package them together for what? Like
Yeah,
a 3rd liner? Cool. I just guys, use your brains, use your heads. Come on, like it's fine. Like
yeah, and there were only a few right-handed defensemen traded at the deadline. I mean, Seth Jones is a different player than Ristolainen, and he got a 1st round pick. And Spencer Knight, who's been playing great in Chicago. Carlo got Minton a 1st and a 4th, which is probably what the Flyers could get for Risto in the summer. If they do that, I'd be happy with that. But yeah, it's
well, hold on. They retained on Carlo, and there's only 1 season left on that contract, I think. So Risto with 2 seasons. I don't want to retain on that.
I would retain. Who else are you going to retain on? We've been over this. Who else? I understand. I understand you want the flexibility, but Briere has gotten out of so many bad contracts with like they didn't have to retain on Farabee. They aren't really going to have to trade anyone else to have to retain on. So, and they get that spot back in the summer after Kuzmenko on July 1st when the new season starts there.
Yeah. Oh, I just am looking at their cap sheet. Cam Atkinson's name scored a goal last night.
Yes.
Way to go, Cam.
Yeah.
No, I know it. Who would they trade with retention next year? I guess Ryan Paling, but like even then, he's 1.9. I don't think you need to retain on that.
Well, I mean,
I guess it hurts your flexibility, but we have talked like Ristolainen might be their last shot at trading an aging asset to get a premium future asset.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to retain to do it, I'm okay with that. But that premium asset better be worth that 2 years of retention. Because Briere and Jonesy have been like 2026. That's the year. That's when we go in. Guess whose contract would be the only one that's still on the books if they retain? It's Risto.
Risto, yeah.
It's Risto. Hayes will be off. Lawton will be off. But Risto would still be on the books in 2020, the summer of 2026. So I can understand their reticence. But I mean, if you're getting a 1st, a 2nd, and a decent prospect, you kind of got to do it. Still, I think Risto at 5.1, he's worth that contract. His play over the past year and a half 2 seasons even. He's worth 5.1 on a rising cap. I don't think you need to retain.
I honestly think he's probably worth more than that. So I completely agree. You don't need to retain, but yeah, like you said, maybe you want to keep the flexibility to retain on a Paling, because we didn't think the Flyers would have to retain on Lawton. They retained on him, like retain on a Paling, maybe retain on a Zabula if they get calls again. But we've discussed enough about Ristolainen and the trade deadline and trading over the past 3 months. So let's get to something else with the defensemen that has been top of mind this week. That kind of flew under the radar. Cam York being a healthy scratch on Saturday. We're like, all right, Andre's up, Andre's getting in, great. Yeah. It's going to be a rotation the rest of the way. But then things come out that he doesn't understand why he was scratched. Tortorella apparently tried to pick a fight with him a few years ago. And Cam York is interesting because he was not a Danny Briere draft pick. He was a Brent Flair draft pick who has a good record of drafting defensemen. He's he drafted. Yeah, I remember. No, before Philadelphia. I remember. Before Philadelphia, like over his career. I remember when he drafted York. I wrote an article for Sons of Penn, rest in peace, about all the other stuff that he has done there. But yeah, you look at like the roster, and he's one of the guys that's not necessarily a Briere, Torch, Jonesy guy. Like he's either wasn't drafted or acquired by them. He wasn't re-signed by them to an extension. Like it's him, Sanheim. They tried to trade. He's worked through his issues. And we talked about this. I posted about this last week. Like I'm sick of seeing Cam York as the default trade option, but it feels like that's going to be the thing because...
Well, it was Farabee, but now Farabee isn't here. So we have to move on to our next punching bag. What do you call it? Our next scapegoat?
Scapegoat.
Oh, it's Farabee first. Now it's York. If they trade York, who's next? Michkov?
Tippett. Yeah,
Tippett. Well, he has an NTC coming in a couple of years, so that's...
Yeah, he's been disappointing, though. But
has he?
See, he has not lived up to the contract. Last year, he's not going to reach the numbers he had last year. I was looking at it before the show here but he's still probably a second line winger if you have a good center. So I'm not going to read too much into this season. But back to Cam York, like, sure, people have been disappointed by him, but I feel like he's a defenseman that you don't notice, and he's one of those defensemen that you kind of take for granted, and then when he's gone, you miss him. Like you don't notice him, like a Matt Carl, like a Braden Coburn, like those type of defensemen that aren't number one defensemen, aren't gonna light the world on fire. That's kind of what he was portrayed as when he was drafted, a bunch of points and whatnot. But he's been a great top pair defenseman with Sanheim for the Flyers.
I mean, the way you just described it, it's not apples to apples, but every Cale Makar needs a Devon Taves. And if Cam York is... Like, Devon Taves would be a number one defenseman on any team that didn't have Cale Makar. But, you look at the Lightning, and Victor Hedman was not great last season. They bring back Ryan McDonagh, and all of a sudden he's looking like prime Victor Hedman. Yeah. Ryan McDonagh isn't like... a world beater defenseman, but he rounds out and stabilizes Hedman in such a way that elevates his partner. So maybe down the road, Cam York is just that guy. He's not the star. He's not the driver of the pair, but he provides that balance or, roundedness to his partner's game. And Jamie Drysdale has been fucking unreal the past couple weeks. I have been banging this drum for months, and now I'm so glad to see everyone else is like, yeah, he's got it. If York is the guy who rounds out Drysdale's game long term, oh baby, we got something cooking here.
Yeah, I was listening to Danny Briere on Flyers Daily with Jason Martinez. I mean, he was like, he's very happy with the confidence that Drysdale's showing. And how do you feel about people kind of grouping together York, Andre, and Drysdale, saying like, oh, one of those three has to go?
I don't... Is it because of handedness? Like,
it's not. I mean, it's
York
not.
And Andre?
I think it's smaller, air quotes, defensemen that they don't think they can have three.
What? York is 6 foot flat, right?
York is 6 foot, and either Briere or Flair, I think Flair in Charlie's interview with him said like he's someone I don't consider a small defenseman because of the way he plays.
He plays like he's bigger than he is. He doesn't have the reach, obviously, but he plays a shot blocking, more physical kind of game, I
Him and
guess.
Sanheim play like opposite games for their bodies.
Yeah, that's true. Um, I I mean, would I put Andre and Drysdale on a pair together? Probably not. That doesn't they both bring a more offense forward skill set. Although Jamie Drysdale's defense has been markedly improved.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it would work, not this season, but in the future it could work. But I I don't see why you can't keep all three, especially if they're so high on Hunter McDonald that he can come in and be that big presence. Or, Oliver Bonk is what, 6'2"? Like
He's
he could,
fairly big. He feels like a right-handed Sanheim though, where he's like big but doesn't necessarily use his body as much.
but his details might be better so that he's able to just break up plays before they happen. You know what I mean? Like Sanheim, sometimes the play is happening, or not even Sanheim, any of the Flyers defensemen, the play is happening and they're able to stop it, but it's because they've caught up to where it is. But Oliver Bonk has more of a sense of just like, if I do this, it's never going to happen in the first place.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So,
Comment here from Thomas. Bonk has
hey,
gotten nastier in London this season. So big prick mode. I like that. Big prick mode for
BPM.
So BPM for
BPM.
Bonk. We'd like to see that. Maybe that's something the Flyers told him to get into his game. Maybe he's been hanging out with Denver Barkey more. You never know up there in London. But yeah, I completely think you can have Andre Drysdale and New York and Bonk on this defense. Like Cam York's a top four defenseman. I think Drysdale is as well. And Andre's probably a solid middle pair guy right now. He could be a top pair guy, potentially with the right partner. He's probably best suited third pair. But looking at the Flyers defense, I would rather trade Zamula. I would rather trade Sealer. Like, I think those two guys. Sealer's contract obviously isn't bad, $2.7 million, but no trade clause. Yeah, I think Zamula is. I'd rather trade him than Andre or York, but obviously York would be the piece that you move to get that 1C, to get an Elias Pettersson, to get a Tage Thompson, to get, I don't know, I saw Rasmus Dahlin, his back, not a back and forth with Paul Bissonnette, but once I saw that, before I saw that Dahlin kind of said, no, that's not right. I was like, oh, Rasmus Dahlin on the Flyers. I would love that.
It'd be incredible.
Dahlin Drysdale, double D pair. All about it.
Baby. Or Owen Power, because Owen Power is apparently sluggishly growing into his role, I suppose. But
just save somebody from Buffalo. They always have a market improvement once they.
We did. We saved Rasmus Ristolainen.
we have to do it again now. But
I was for another defenseman, sure.
Yeah, I was rewatching the highlights from last night, and I'm surprised. I'm not sure if Torch talked about it or was asked about it, but Cam York on that first Lightning goal on the power play, like Cam York was way out of position. He went like to tie the guy up against the boards and left two Lightning guys out in front. And I did not notice that while watching it live, but I went back and watched the highlights. I'm like, oh, that was not good. And I'm surprised. I guess they only have 6 defensemen. He's playing top pair, so he's not going to get benched like Michkov did. But that's definitely something where Tortorella didn't like it.
They talked about that a lot at intermission on the broadcast. It was ugly. But how old is Cam York? He's like 24, right? Like he's still pretty young.
Yeah, he's 24 here on Capway. Yeah, just turned 24 in January. So
yeah. Chris Pronger came out and was like, yeah, defensemen don't usually hit their prime till they're like 26, 27. And I'm not ready to call Cam York just bad after that one play. He got aggressive. The Flyers have an aggressive penalty kill by design. Like they're always trying to spring and send someone the other way. But yeah, it was a dumb play. He won't do it again. Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah. In the bigger picture, though, I mean, Cam York is an RFA this summer. It really makes you question like what type of deal he's going to look for, if he's going to want to sign a long-term deal. On cap wages, courtesy of AFP Analytics, their 2 potential contracts are 2 years at $4.5 million or 6 at 5.6. I
Oh,
feel like
I signed that 6 year in a heartbeat.
oh, easily, yeah, because you got
Yeah.
Sanheim at 6.2. That would pretty much be a little bit more than Ristolainen's making. So yeah, you
Hmm.
trade Risto, give York that money, and I feel like you slide it up. But I just hope he's not turned off by Tortorella, turned off by this thing, because as Chris Pronger mentioned, he was like he did the same thing last year with Sean Couture after naming him the captain. Like it seems like there's an annual March just healthy scratching that just kind of riles up the fan base.
Eh. I mean, I think York is aware that he will, if the Flyers want to keep him, he will be here longer than John Tortorella.
Yeah,
At least as longer than Torts is the head coach. I don't know about his future with the organization, but you know, just I don't know Cam York personally, but every time I see him in an interview or like the social media posts on like Flyers Instagram, he seems extremely like laid back and
he's a
not
California
non
boy.
he's
California
a
boy. Yeah,
California guy. He's
just
not
he just
non
wants to surf.
yeah, he's not non-confrontational, but he's just like, you're not getting to me. I you want me to be mad, like I'm not gonna fight you about it. Like
Yeah,
this isn't you're not gonna get to me. So whatever. Like let him just kind of roll his eyes, and Torts has to accept like, all right, this guy isn't gonna fall for that.
yeah. Him and Drysdale are good friends off the ice. So remember, Tortorella had the quote last year of if they're talking hockey off the ice, he'd piss his pants. And
Pee my pants, yeah.
I'm looking here; they haven't played much together at all at 5 on
No.
5. York Drysdale, 33 minutes. I mean, 36% expected goals, but a very small sample size there. That's a pair I could see as long as Drysdale keeps his confidence up here. And yeah, as you said, I think York is Briere and Jones like him, and maybe Torch is just challenging him a little bit. And yeah, York is very much likely to be here longer than John Tortorella. And it seems like some fans think that Tort's leash is shortening a bit. I mean, saw the 5-game losing streak. It could have went on a lot longer. They're gonna continue free falling here, but what do you feel about Torts now? Do you think he's going to be back? I think his contract is what, through next year or the year
Yeah.
after?
One more year.
They won't fire him, so he'd have to either step down or step up into the front office.
If you had asked me like 2 weeks ago, I would be like, nah, he finishes this contract. I'm a little bit less confident in that now. I mean, look, I'll go back to it the same way I've approached the trades of like Scott Laughton and Risto. If you're not getting a premium asset for those players, why bother trading them? You can let Torts go or let him step up into the front office. But if you're just gonna hire some guy to replace them, is that the right approach? Like if you've got Mike Sullivan or John Cooper or Rod Brindamore, like dream case scenarios here. If you've
Andrew
got one
Burnett.
of those guys, not for head coach.
Not for power play coach? Power play coach, definitely.
Oh, my summer wish list is Preds fire Andrew Burnett, Flyers fire Rocky Thompson, Flyers pay Andrew Burnett a shit ton of money to be the offensive coordinator for the Flyers. Question mark, profit. That is basically my summer wish list. No, but like I would hope that if the opportunity presents itself, like with the St. Louis Blues, they had Drew Bannister as the head coach, and then all of a sudden Jim Montgomery was available because the Bruins fired him. The St. Louis Blues were like, "Hey, Bannister, good job, but this guy's really good. We're getting him." So, if that's how it goes, fine. But I don't know. Who is Quinn, the guy who coached the Sharks or whatever? Dave Quinn.
Dan Quinn, wasn't he was with the Rangers and the Sharks? Like,
if that's who you're replacing Torts with because you need a change, like, no, that's stupid.
I have a theory / plan / thing I'm cooking up in my head. So David Carl, the head coach of the University of Denver, World Juniors head coach.
Sure.
I think either this summer or next summer, Flyers bring him in, have Tortorella as like a a senior advisor to the coaching staff or whatever, where he goes between the bench and the front office at games. And you have David Carl being groomed as the next guy. Danny Briere played with Matt Carl. Not sure if they want to bring in a first-time head coach again without having someone like Torts there.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, John Cooper is the pie in the sky dream if you can get him in, because he's an amazing head coach. But
hey,
if
his contract's up in 2026 too. All I'm saying. Tampa has shown that they are cutthroat. All I'm saying.
Yeah, but yeah, I think if you bring in David Carl, he wouldn't take an assistant job, so he would have to be the head coach, and Tortorella would have to do something. But I could see Torch doing that. Be like, I'm going to take help Carl along here and whatnot. So, because I think this summer is the summer that Carl probably signs a deal, and then Carl will also have the flexibility of, he wants to be with his family in Denver. Like, if you have two kind of co-head coaches, as long as they're not butting heads, I feel like it could work.
I don't think that works at all. Like, these coaches have huge egos. They are not going to share that like position of power.
Well, yeah,
gracefully.
you need Torts to be able to be like, all right, you frame it as Torch, you're moving into a more front office personnel position, advisor role, and
He
David
can't be
Carl
behind
comes
the
in.
bench. He cannot be behind the bench, because if Torts has any say behind the bench, like, the players don't know who to listen to.
Yeah,
You can't split that. I know it sounds silly, like, oh, why can't you like have it be a democracy? No, you have the head coach, because if you divide that up too much, you're getting mixed messages. Like, there's no way. Yeah, no, definitely not. I don't think Carl will pick the Flyers. Sorry. But if I'm trying to think, like, who else might be available this year.
I don't know. I also don't think Torch is going anywhere.
Woodcroft. That's who I was thinking of. Woodcroft was at practices to start the year, right? He was here for the preseason as like a special, not invitee, but he asked Torts, like, can I watch your preseason practices? Because I want to observe.
He may have been. Yeah, he was at Flyers training camp for a few days, so maybe could be somebody that they want to bring in. But yeah, I think Torts is not going anywhere. I think the frustration that the fans have with Tortorella is justified.
Yeah.
There are times when he makes what we think are irrational decisions, but I think ultimately people are like, oh, what has happened positively under Tortorella here? You've seen plenty of young players grow. You've seen Konechny grow. I mean, Konechny and Sanheim, as a side note here, they need a few games off. They've been going nonstop. Love seeing them at Four Nations. Love them getting that honor, but they've been going nonstop all season long. But yeah, Konechny's grown. We've seen Brink grow. Tippett's been okay. Forster's been fantastic. Cates, Risto, Sanheim, Brink. Yeah, like, we've seen all these guys grow, and Tortorella is able to kind of mold them a bit. And then there's Matvei Michkov, who, has grown, but also has, made people groan about what Tortorella has done with Michkov behind the bench, especially on Sunday with that benching. What were your thoughts on that?
Oh.
And yeah, the defensive lapse a bit against who was it? Cody Glass. It's just a bunch of no names scored for the Devils now. Cody Glass, Eric Halla, and then someone
Cody
else.
Glass is on the Devils?
Is he not?
I thought he was a Penguin.
Oh, is that the Penguins game? No, he's a Devil. He's a Devil now.
Oh, well, how about that?
Yeah.
The more you know. I gotta be honest, I didn't notice Michkov was on the bench until I refreshed my Blue Sky, and I was like, oh, cool. I was like, well, if he's benched for the rest of the game, that's a problem. But he wasn't. They put him back out there. Look, I don't have a problem with like a 10-minute benching like that, because I can guarantee you every mistake that Michkov makes that leads to a benching, he has probably been told a billion times by the coaching staff, don't do this. If you do it, Torts is going to bench you. And then he does it, and what happens? Like, it's like with kids. You can't say you're going to do something as like a punishment if they do this one thing and then they do it. You can't just be like, oh yeah, whatever. You have to follow through. It's like, I told you what was going to happen if you did this. Now I got to do it. And like, I just think about a couple years ago in a game against the Carolina Hurricanes, the Lightning were getting absolutely thrashed. It was like 5-0. Like, it was brutal. What does John Cooper do? He benches Braden Point, Steven Stamkos, and Nikita Kucherov for the entire third period. Like, this isn't just a Torts thing. All coaches do this. But Torts has the how do you say it? Like, he's just
Reputation.
he's got the reputation.
He's the poster child of like,
Yeah.
oh, grumpy old coach.
Yes.
That's all he is. And
He's the
not
dinosaur.
and he's not necessarily that anymore.
No.
And it reminded me that Jason McNeil wrote a good article earlier this week on BroStreetHockey.com. How the benchings may not spell disaster. There have been other guys like that Tampa Bay Lightning example. Brad Marchand was benched and went back and forth with his coach earlier this season. Like David Pastrnak was benched. Will Smith, JT Miller. Like we've seen these guys benched. And
yeah,
as you just said, as I said in the video on Sunday, like, yeah, if he's told something to not do it and he does it, there has to be some sort of ramification for that. It can't just be, oh, you know what, you get that as a pass, because that gets in Michkov's head that, okay, I can do that. I can do these bad habits. And you don't want that. You don't want to see the bad habits into him. And the same, and then it, trickles down to the teammates, like the younger players, like Pelletier, like Brink, like whoever else. It's like, all right, if Michkov is getting away with it, let me try it. And then if I don't get away with it, why don't I get away with it? And he does it.
Right.
Why is he the coach's pet or whatever you want to call it? So I'm fine with it. I do understand that the fans that are like, all right, Flyers are out of it. Just let the guys have fun and whatever. But they're still developing the players. They still have 15 games to develop them. You can't just be like, all right, let's just do whatever. Because Lixell's playing for a contract. You're trying to see what Pelletier is. You're trying to see what all of these guys are. Like, you don't know what any of these guys really are on a good NHL roster. Is Michkov a top line winger right now? Is he second? Where's Konechny at? Where's Tippett and Forster? What is Noah Cates is a huge question. Like, so you need to see these guys play against tough competition. You can't just go out there and play pond hockey.
No, it's also like character analysis, like what happens when you're just playing out the season. Like last year, you were in a playoff race till the last day. So we got to see how you performed under pressure. This next month, we're not making the playoffs. Barring a miracle, it's not happening. How do you respond to that kind of situation? Also, there might be some junior players joining this roster in the next few weeks. International leagues are finishing up. The college leagues are finishing up. Junior leagues are finishing up. There is a real chance that the Flyers, because these aren't call-ups, you can sign a player out of the NCAA and add them to your roster, and it doesn't count as one of your 4 AHL post-deadline call-ups. Could we see Alex Bump? Like that. Do you want to bring those players into a team that is given up for the season? No. So it's important to just keep trucking on. Maybe you don't hit as hard and block 110-mile-an-hour slap shots as often, but you still do enough to be like, hey, I'm still competing here.
Yeah, you got to keep that, especially with Farabee and Frost gone, especially with Lawton gone. Someone has to step up, and they probably are inside the room. You're probably seeing those guys. Joe's pointing at me. What we got? Is it Tippett?
So you were at the game last night. You didn't watch the broadcast. Okay. On the broadcast, Ashlyn, again, shout out. She talked about how Tippett was like, yeah, with Lawton gone, I've been trying to step up in the locker room and say stuff. He's like, it's really out of character for me because that's not how I usually am. I'm not that kind of guy, but someone's got to do it. So I figure I might as well try. And I think Torts responded with, yeah, I don't know if he's that kind of guy, but hey, we'll see. Like it's just, so they're trying. With Lawton gone, young guys are going to step up, and maybe it doesn't work. Maybe Tippett is not a good leader in that sense. Maybe he just puts it on the ice and leads by example, but good on him for having the courage to try and speak up in a way that he might not have had Scott Lawton not been here to help integrate him into the locker room a few years ago.
I mean, he's not living up to expectations on the ice. So, I like seeing him there. He's not. And I hate when I hate when like you post something negative about a player and people are like, "Oh, why do you hate him? What, you don't think he's an NHL player?" It's like,
No.
no, I just don't think he's the top line player right now that we thought he could be when
It
he
could
was
just be a
thriving.
slump.
It could be a slump. It could be, he could have a nagging injury. You never know. And yeah,
So
looking back at that first year when they traded Giroux for Tippett, uh, here's the game leaders: JVR gone, Sanheim, Konechny, Provorov gone, Lindblom, Yandel, McEwen, Atkinson, Lawton all gone. Then Risto.
is that points?
No, this is games played. Games played.
Okay.
And you got Braun, Giroux, Frost, Hayes, redacted goalie, Patrick Brown, Nick Seeler, Max Willman played fucking 41 games that season. Nick
Wax,
Thompson, Derek Brassard. So like there are just
dude.
a small
Derek,
handful of guys that have been here Tortorella's whole tenure, and Tippett is one of them. So
Derek
he's
Brassard.
what a name, right? So
That was such a good signing too. Like the what was it? The Atkinson Brassard Farabee line. That was
the Fab
so
line,
good
yeah,
for like
it was
the
Fab.
Fab line for 2 weeks. Man, we thought we had
Yeah.
something there.
Yeah, I mean Tippett's been around,
Oh.
so good on him for stepping up, and maybe he does become one of those leaders where he's more of a silent leader, like a Couturier, but the guys in the room respect him. So when he does speak, they're going to listen and they're going to take that in. But before we move on from this, I want to just go back to your point about character development and how do players play when the season is out, and like how you can't exactly evaluate players when the season is gone, because you just look back at Morgan Frost in the 2022-23 season. He had 40 points in his final 54 games. He was
As we
great.
know.
And then the next season, he had 41 total points in 71 games. And this year, 30 points in 63 games between the Flyers and Flames. So you need to see these players in the type of environment that is going to be competitive, not type of environment where it's, guys just going out there having fun and doing what they can. Sure, maybe they pad their stats a bit, but that's not a true evaluation of who they are.
Yeah. I also just want to talk Owen Tippett again real quick. His shooting percentage this year is up. It's 12.4. He has 357 shot attempts in 62 games. Do you know how many shot attempts he had last season?
400? I have no idea.
544. Like 200, like, okay, there's 16 games to play. He'll get a few more, but the difference in his shot attempts is staggering. His actual shots on goal this season, 153. Last season, 289. He is not shooting nearly as much as he needs to shoot. I don't know what the hell's going on there. Maybe they were just like, dude, stop ripping it from the perimeter. You're not going to score from there. Get to the net. And he's being more conscientious because his shooting percentage is up. When he shoots, he's more likely to score. But he's not shooting as much. Like, I don't know. Maybe this is just like I don't want to call it a growth year, but like a bridge year where he's like, okay, I know I can shoot a bunch and be a volume shooter guy from wherever, but I need to get to better areas to score. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Looking at the raw numbers, look at the rate numbers now. All strengths last season, he had 1.14 expected goals individual per 60. This year, it's down to 0.78. Scoring chances per 60 were 11 last year. This year, it's 9. High danger chances were 3.9 last year. This year, it's 2.8. So he's definitely taken a step back in terms of shooting, getting to those high danger areas. So that's you want to see those underlying numbers better. And I wonder if it's something to do with playing with Michkov, and he's kind of wants to, maybe pass the puck more and let Michkov do his thing. But I would think the opposite. Let Michkov, open those passing lanes for you, and then take the shot.
So funny enough, I just pulled this up on Hockey Reference, and at even strength, last year he had 1.3 goals per 60. This year at even strength, 1.3 goals per 60. His points are down though. He was at 2.5 per 60 last year and 2 this year. But his on ice goals for per 60 was 3.3 last season and 3.2. So it's weird. Like, he's still getting goals at the same rate per 60, but he's just not shooting it. I don't know. I don't know. Owen Tippett, just get your shit together and like get your head right this summer and be like, oh yeah, I have a big contract I need to play up to. Let's do that.
Yeah, hopefully it's just a fluke of a season and we see him bounce back next year. I don't think he's really had a consistent line to play with this year either. I know he was with
The Kuz Michkov,
Frost
but
and Michkov there for a bit. Pulling up here on Money Puck. Yeah, Michkov and Frost he played 157 with. Besides that, Michkov and Kutz 120. So he's been with Michkov, but he hasn't really had a decent. I mean, I guess they're decent centers, Frost and Couturier, but not anything great there. But yeah, you mentioned Derek Brassard and Cam Atkinson were decent signings, but what could be some decent signings this offseason? Because looking at the top centers available, Flyers probably aren't going to get any of them. Maybe they get a veteran stopgap. I still think Marco Rossi is probably one of the best options as an RFA in Minnesota, but
but what do you give up? Like
Cam York.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Risto, give him Risto. Like I don't know what Minnesota is looking for. I don't know if Thomas is still watching. I know he does a lot of writing for Hockey Wilderness, so he might have an idea. But yeah, Rossi seems like a guy that the Wild undervalue and the Flyers would overvalue because they seem to be building this small, speedy team, and I love it. I absolutely love it. You can go out and buy size. You can go out in free agency and get these bottom six big wingers that can get in there and forecheck. But I think the size and skill there is undervalued. The one UFA I do think the Flyers are going to sign, and I really do, is Claude Giroux. I think if he was staying in Ottawa, he would have resigned by now. And it's not like Danny Briere was just teammates with him. He had fucking Claude Giroux living with him. You go back and watch the 2012 24/7 Road to the Winter Classic. They're like best buds. I think he comes home to finish his career here. Maybe not this offseason, but he's already 37. So I feel like maybe he signs like a 1 year, 2 year deal somewhere else and then comes home. But I would love to see him back. Maybe not as a center, maybe as a winger, but he still has the vision. He still has the hands. Like I still think he can. And he'll bring some culture back as well. You don't love it.
I don't know about that. Like no, as a winger, no. We have enough of those.
Well, that's what he's I guess maybe playing him as a center because he's still great at faceoffs, but I don't know if players go from center back to wing back to center like late in their career like that.
Okay, what winger comes out for Claude Giroux?
Well, that's the thing. It would have to go. It would have to coincide with like a trade for a 1C. So like a Tippett, a Brink, one of those guys, a Forster gets traded. But or maybe you do just bring in Giroux as a center and you have him as a 2C.
I don't know. My thoughts are if Brock Nelson or John Tavares are willing to sign like a 2-year contract, if it's like a 2-year, $8 million a year contract, because why the fuck not? Go for that. As long as the term is short, I'm not concerned. But like, who else? Sam Bennett? I'm not signing Sam Bennett to 7 years. What the fuck? Get the fuck out of here. I know you want him on this team, Gilbert. He'd be a lot of fun. It'd be the stupidest signing. Everyone is mad about signing Travis Konecny. They'd be furious about signing Sam Bennett.
I was actually looking at Sam Bennett's numbers on Hockey Reference before the shot. I'm looking at him again here. Career high. You know what his career high in points is?
68.
49. 49 is his career high. He's just a big game player. He's been hurt a bunch. He hasn't played more than 71 games since 2018. So maybe I am lower on him, but this is the one off season that I could see these bigger names taking short-term contracts because they don't know what the cap is going to be in 2 or 3 years. So they get a big deal for two or 3 years now. And then once the cap is up, they take another short-term deal.
But then they're 30. Like Brock Nelson's 33. John Tavares is like 36.
Tavares is 34. Nelson 33. 34. Giroux 37. Bennett 28. Michael Granlund 33. Like that's the thing about free agent centers. Yeah, Tavares, Nelson, Giroux, Bennett, Granlund, and Yanni Gourde, Bukestad, Nick Dowd, Lars Eller, like guys you don't want. So that's why it has to be the trade route. That's why the Flyers have 7 picks in the top 50. That's why they got a second round pick in the future.
Long term, I am not disagreeing with you. Long term, it needs to be a trade. I'm talking about just for next year and maybe the year after. Like, they need a guy. They need a warm body who can play the center position that is not, Ryan Paling 2C. Like, they need just someone who can step into that role.
Yeah, I would love to see them overpay any of those guys for a short-term deal because fans will hate it. Like, oh, why are you paying them this much? It's like, okay, who else are you paying right now? This is why you cleared up money. You have Michkov on his rookie deal. You have these young guys on cheap deals still. Take advantage of that. Don't pull a Detroit and sign Andrew Kopp and JT Compher and all these mid guys. Go out and get this guy that can, is probably a 2C, but can be a 1C. Put him there. Then you have Luchenko. You have Cates, you have Couturier, you have Paling, you have decent center depth then. You just need a top 6 center, and it kind of goes down from there.
Anybody. Goddamn. We just need a guy. We cannot run. I mean, the pro tank crowd would be like, yeah, just run this roster back as it is. But you can't. You can't. Like, it just doesn't add up. Anyway, should we do our game predictions for the coming week?
Yeah, let's do our game predictions. We can do that now. Coming week.
And then a tankathon spin. We're still at 7. 2 weeks later, we're still at 7.
Well, I also want to do a way too early look at some draft prospects. You want to do that now, or you want to do that when we do our tankathon?
But let's do that at tankathon.
All right, let's do that at tankathon. So, looking at the upcoming games, Flyers conclude their homestand on Saturday night against the Carolina Hurricanes. Then they go on a road trip Monday at the Lightning, Thursday at the Capitals, and then a weekend back-to-back in Dallas and Chicago. We should be recording before those two then. So we'll look at these next 3 games, starting with Saturday in 25 hours here against the Hurricanes. Joe?
I think they're going to get blown back by the Canes. Just absolutely rocked by the Carolina Hurricanes.
There is one saving grace here, and that is the Hurricanes are playing tonight at home against the Red Wings. It is Frederik Andersen in net, it looks like, so it'll probably be Kochetkov, but I think the Hurricanes are deep enough to win on a back-to-back. I don't think it's going to be good. Probably like a boring 4-1 win for Carolina.
Just 4?
Yeah, Carolina does not run up to score. They get 3 or 4 and just dump it in and cycle it around. That's just what they do and shoot from the outside. So that's what's going to happen there.
5-0 Canes shutout.
5-0 Canes shutout. All right, and then we have at Tampa Bay on Monday. I imagine we'll get Vasilevsky in that one. Kucherov could be back as well. Lightning, though, have lost 3 in a row. Boston, Carolina, and then at the Flyers, of course. They play in Boston on Saturday and then home against the Flyers on Monday. I think like a Tampa 5-2 win.
See, we always think that Tampa's going to win, and then the Flyers have won both of their meetings.
The Flyers have their number. The Flyers have their number. It's true.
It's like last season when they had the Florida Panthers number for some weird reason. And guess what? The Panthers, maybe that means the Lightning are winning the cup. Whoever the Flyers seem to just have the number of is the team that wins the cup. This has only happened 1 year, so don't read too far into it. I mean, I think it's going to be 4-3 Tampa overtime. I think if Kucherov is back and it gets to overtime, he's just going to, do his thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what did I say? Thursday at Washington. The Capitals are proving me wrong. They just keep dominating. I know they lost last night in LA, but had a 5-game winning streak before that. They're, I think, top in the league right now. They're a team that kind of just wears you down a little bit. So probably I'll go 5-2 Caps. Ovi gets 2.
Ooh. How many does he need now? 8?
He's at 8 or 9, yeah.
I think he's at yeah. I think it'll be closer than that. Probably 4-2 Caps with the empty netter.
All right, yeah, and that is the 3 games upcoming. I did also want to touch on goaltending. What are our
Oh,
thoughts here on goaltending? Do we think the Flyers are going to sign someone in the offseason, or are we just going into next year with Ersson and Fedotov?
and Kolosov and Bjarnason. I don't know, like who?
I know
Like,
I know Aiden Hill was thrown around. He just signed a big deal with Vegas today.
yeah.
Let me look at other goalies who are out
You
there.
want to go sign a backup? We've got one of those. Like, what do you need another backup for? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I think Fedotov is a decent backup and Ersson's a 1B
well,
at this point.
let's not get carried away with decent backup. Like, he's
He's a backup.
he's a backup. We'll go
I
with
mean, we
that.
saw Jonas Johansson last night. I think Fedotov is about the same as him, just a worse team in front of him.
I mean, he did beat Vasilevsky in a shootout.
Exactly. He's
You want to
beaten
talk? You want to talk big game players? Fedotov against like Shesterkin, Vasilevsky, Hellebuck. Like
Hellebuck, yeah.
he just happens
Allmark,
to
yeah.
Hallmark. He just wins those games. It's I don't know, man. Whatever. Just goaltending is a crapshoot, and we have goalies in the pipeline. I don't want to lock into a long-term deal with just some dude.
Yeah, you got Jake Allen, Gorgiev,
Nope.
Frederick
Nope.
Anderson, Samsonov,
Nope.
Alex
Nope.
Lyon,
Nope.
Vladar, Vanacek, Dave
Nope.
Rittich.
Nope.
Yeah, just
Nope.
just go with the guys you got, and if goaltending costs you a playoff spot or a few spots in the lottery, so be it. So be it.
I don't think any of those guys that you just listed would get the Flyers into a playoff race. Like,
Well, they wouldn't get them into a playoff race, but they would potentially keep them in the playoff race.
no. Like, Alex Lyon might be the best name you just said. How many starts has he had in a season?
This year he is 11-8-1 with a 900 save percentage. That's
Yeah.
all I want. I want a 900 save percentage goalie. That's all I want. That's all I can ask for.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna say no to that one.
All right, let me pull up Tankathon here. Let me share the screen. Yeah, Flyers still 7th. It's San Jose, Chicago, Buffalo, Nashville, Seattle, Pittsburgh, then the Flyers. But I mean, you see, basically Buffalo
Tied.
could get up there. It's tight. Buffalo or Flyers are tied with Pittsburgh in points. 4 up on Seattle, 7 up on Nashville, who is coming into their own here late in the season. So
a little too late.
yeah, Flyers could go anywhere, I think, from 5 to 10 here. I wouldn't be shocked at. And all right, let's sim the lottery. All right, Chicago, San Jose. Everyone else stays the same. So Flyers would stay at 7.
Fine. I just want to point something out that in 3 of the past 4 drafts, the Flyers are going to have a top 10 pick. Oh, we're not rebuilding.
And then last year they were in it until the last game of the season and still got picked 12 or 13 and traded down, like
12 and traded to 13.
Yeah, perfectly fine there. But yeah, draft rankings. Corey Pronman put out a top 32 list.
Sure did.
Earlier this week. He has Schaefer alone in the tier 1. Tier 2, he has Misa, Desnoyers, Higgins, or Martone. So that's the top 5 there, it seems like. And then tier 3, you got Frondell, who I really like, Eklund, Roger McQueen, Kashawn Atchison, Jake O'Brien.
Big fan.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if the Flyers get another Jay O'Brien?
I mean, are they related? I don't think they're related.
I don't think so. No.
I'm just very excited to see Desnoyers up there because he has been so deeply disrespected by Flyers fans because it's like, oh, he's just Elliott's brother, of course. No, he's like a legit top 10 prospect. Is he got that ceiling? No, but he's definitely look, there he is. He's 6th overall. Like, I would probably pick Frondell over Caleb Desnoyers, but just, he is a legit prospect. He's not some dude. Yeah.
Is Desnoyers your guy then right now?
No, my guy's Michael Misa, but I don't know.
Okay, my guy's Matthew Schaefer then.
Okay. I mean, that'd be dope. I'd love that.
I just don't think the Flyers are going to have a chance at Misa.
No, unless they win the lottery or trade up.
So yeah, who's your guy from I guess we can include Higgins because he could fall down from Higgins to Eklund on this list.
Ooh.
Is it Danoye? What's McQueen's
Mm,
injury? He has, is it a back? He had the
back
same
injury.
surgery that Kato Lindstrom and someone else had, right?
Yeah, I would stay away from McQueen. Just the risk is too much for me. I mean, if he hits, holy shit. But
He hits. Yeah.
I don't know. Probably Higgins. I'd probably take Higgins if he fell down that far. I'd be okay with Frondell. If Desnoyers is the only center left at that point, I'd probably take him just because it's such a desperate position of need. I would avoid Porter Martone personally, but that's just me.
I think you got to get a center. Like you don't reach to get the position. Like if Martone's there, if it's like Martone versus Frondell or Jake O'Brien, maybe you go with Martone. I do like Higgins. I feel like he was the maybe not a unanimous number one for a while, but he was number one on most rankings. So
Sure.
I could see Buffalo being a team that would be willing to trade down too, because I think they need more than just one piece. So they could be a team the Flyers target to trade with. But Frondell is my guy right now. I mean, he's putting up decent numbers there in Sweden. I think he could come over right away potentially, or at least to the AHL and make the Phantoms pretty exciting.
He's young. He's young too. I'm looking at their birth dates. Frondell is May 2007, as opposed to the other guys above him who are like 2006s. So he's got a bit more developmental runway there.
Yeah.
Oh, Schaefer is super young. Jesus, September 2007. He's
Kinda
like Jet Luchenko
yeah, he's like
age
Luchenko,
for
yeah.
the draft,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah, there's going to be plenty of draft content coming up on Broad Street Hockey. Make sure you do subscribe to the YouTube. Thomas has put out great videos the past 2 days looking at Brink's game last night, and then 6 reasons to still watch the Flyers this season. So we'll keep doing these. Maybe we'll make this happy hour, maybe not a weekly thing, but regular, semi-regular, just to get something going here, to force ourselves to have a schedule or to talk about the Flyers. But yeah, keep it on the YouTube. Subscribe on Apple, subscribe on Spotify. Make sure you read and subscribe to BroadStreetHockey.com as well. Plenty of good content coming up there. Joe, anything else here before we close it out? Any final thoughts?
Not really. I think that covers most of it. We got what, a month to go? Oh, happy Pi Day as well, I guess. But we got a month to go. Maybe we get to see some junior guys sign a contract or get not called up, but get some NHL games. That would be a reason to watch, because boy, I tell you, the motivation is hard these days. So y'all aren't alone if that's how you're feeling.
Yeah, motivation is hard. I would love to see some juniors guys up there to play for Nick Delorier. I love Nick Delorier every once in a while, but he doesn't need to be out there every game. So hopefully they'll get some guys up. Jet Luchenko's season's going to end soon. I think he only has 5 games left of his tryout, though, because he played 4 earlier this season. So they'll probably get him in the mix. Phantom should.
Garnet Hathaway practiced in a non-contact jersey today, so he should be back hopefully soon. I know it's like, well, you want Hathaway and they're over Delorier? Yes, yeah, I do.
Like, that
is an enormous upgrade.
Yes. Yeah. All right, Joe, where can people follow you?
You can find me at jfdmarini.bsky.social. Gilbs, where can they find you?
You can follow me on Blue Sky as well, RyanGilbert.bsky.social. Make sure you follow the whole Broad Street Hockey crew there. I've seen people, when Twitter went down a few days ago, people were like, oh, who should I follow on Blue Sky? Like, if you're not sure who to follow, go to somebody that you like, go to Broad Street Hockey and see who they're following. See who I'm following, see who Joe's following, see who these major accounts are following. I think that's a good way to get, people that you might not know about even, and get them in your timeline.
I think they're like starter packs or something too. And
starter packs are fun,
but I don't know.
All right then. Shout out Bet Online once again, and until next time, thanks for listening.
Go Fly.